Sometimes the deepest struggles do not come from the outside world, but from within our own minds. We know what is right. We know what is wrong. And yet we often do the opposite of what we truly wish to do. This inner tension is an old observation. One ancient story speaks of a person who says, "I know what is right, but I have no inclination toward it. I know what is wrong, but I cannot stop myself from doing it. Something inside me seems to push." It is a simple description of the human condition, knowledge without the power to follow it. Another figure, standing in a similar struggle, responds differently. He says, in effect, "This is how I am. How can I be better? Teach me." The situation is the same. The inner gesture is different. This small difference reveals the first quiet power within us, the power of decision. Most of the time, life runs on patterns, habits of thought, emotion, and reaction laid down over years. Start up like a program whenever something triggers them. Annoyance appears, anger appears, worry appears, and words follow almost automatically. Yet there is a brief space in between. An impulse rises from below the surface of the mind and reaches awareness that has not yet become speech or action. In that small opening, there is a choice. Imagine sitting and listening, and suddenly the urge arises. Let me check my phone. Usually the hand moves before the thought is fully noticed. But if awareness is present, the same moment can unfold differently. No, not now. I will stay here. To decide is to cut off other paths. The very word decision comes from a root meaning to cut. Every real no makes room for a deeper yes. This power of decision has two directions. There is the ability to say no to what feeds confusion or harm. There is the ability to say yes to what reflects our truest values. We often exercise this power in our outer lives, plans, projects, relationships. Less often do we use it deliberately on the inner level, on what we allow ourselves to think, to dwell on, to repeat in words. Yet this is where the texture of our days is quietly shaped. Ancient teachings speak of 3 levels: thought, speech, and action. Actions are the most visible. Words are subtler. Thoughts are subtler still. Change begins most gently at the level of thought. One story speaks of a monk given a simple practice. He is told to notice his thoughts and to drop a black stone into a bowl whenever an unhelpful or restless thought appears, and a white stone whenever a calm, kind, or clear thought arises. At first, the bowl fills with black stones. Over time, simply by noticing and gently shifting his attention, more white stones appear. By the end of the year, most of the stones are white. The mind, it suggests, can be trained through repeated, quiet decisions. This leads into a second inner power, the power of concentration. Some have said that the difference between an ordinary life and a great one lies largely in the degree of attention, not in the absence of difficulty, not in perfection, but in the capacity to bring the mind fully to what is before it. Modern psychology describes attention as a limited channel. At any moment, only a small amount of information can be held in awareness: sensations of the body, sounds in the room, Thoughts, memories, and the task at hand all share this narrow space. Concentration is the art of letting most of this limited space be occupied by one chosen focus. When attention is scattered across screens, noises, and constant checking, only a thin strand is left for what truly matters. We may feel busy and stimulated, but depth is missing. When attention is gathered, even simple actions become clear and steady. You might be wondering how this gathering of attention is cultivated. One classical map comes from the Yoga Sutras. It begins not with mystical experiences, but with foundations, living in ways that reduce conflict, both outwardly and inwardly. From there, it moves to the body. Sitting quietly is treated as a real practice. Like a bowl of water, if the container is shaken, the surface cannot become still. When the body settles, the mind finds it easier to follow. Breath becomes the next doorway. It has been noticed for centuries that when the mind is agitated, the breath is rough. When the mind is calm, the breath is smooth. By gently calming the breath, the mind can be invited into the same calmness. Then attention is slowly withdrawn from its many scattered objects. Sounds, sights, and thoughts still arise, but the mind does not chase each one. It begins to gather itself. From this gathered state, attention is placed on a single point. Perhaps a word, the breath, an inner image, or a sense of presence. Holding it there is called concentration. When the holding becomes continuous, it is called meditation. At a certain depth, something quiet happens. The movements of the mind subside enough that the simple fact of being aware shines by itself. One text describes this as the seer resting in its own nature. Even outside formal meditation, attention shapes our experience. What we choose to dwell on changes the felt quality of our lives. If the mind lingers mostly on what is painful, missing, or frightening, life takes on that flavor. If the mind returns again and again to what is meaningful work that matters, simple beauty, relationships, a sense of the sacred, the same outer life feels different. Mind is its own place, one poet wrote. You might be wondering where unselfishness comes into this. Decision and concentration by themselves are neutral powers. They can serve narrow interests or something wider. The third power, unselfishness, gives them direction. There are people whose focus is extraordinary and whose will is strong. Yet these capacities are used mainly for personal gain. Without a broadened heart, inner power can harden. With unselfishness, it softens into service. Many traditions link inner life and outer life in a single movement. Love of what is highest, and love of the one who stands before you. Turning inward in silence and then opening your eyes with the quiet question, what can I do for you? A private spirituality that seeks only one's own peace can become confined. When inner clarity begins to express itself as simple care for others, something fuller appears. Inner work and outer kindness become two sides of the same gesture. Psychology offers its own language for this. Pleasure brings quick, light happiness, but fades. Engagement, being absorbed in what one does, brings a deeper satisfaction. Meaning, feeling connected to something larger than oneself, tends to bring the deepest stability. Meaning often arises when life is not only about me. Helping in small ways, contributing where one can, creates a sense that one's existence is woven into a wider fabric. Unselfishness, in this sense, is not self-denial, but self-expansion. You might be wondering how these three powers, decision, attention, unselfishness, touch everyday spiritual questions. Consider meditation. Ancient texts describe a simple pattern. Choose an object, stay with it, notice when the mind wanders, and gently return. Modern brain scans show different networks lighting up for each of these stages. Inner instructions and outer science quietly meet. The deeper purpose of such practice, in many paths, is awakening knowing oneself more truly, or coming into living contact with what is sacred. Stress relief and clarity along the way are real, but not the final point. As the mind becomes a little more peaceful, deeper questions often arise by themselves. You might also wonder about the relationship between the heart and the mind. For a long time, people imagine themselves as primarily rational beings. Yet both science and experience suggest that feeling often moves first, and thinking follows behind, offering reasons. We find arguments for what we already like or dislike. Older teachings therefore speak of purifying the heart before attempting subtle understanding. They point to emotions, desires, and fears as the deeper currents that shape thought. Bringing these into clarity through honesty, prayer, meditation, or service is seen as essential. Some even suggest that, in a certain sense, the heart speaks more to the head than the head to the heart. This image simply says, our reasoning is not separate from our feeling. Both need attention. You might also be wondering about death. Many traditions share the intuition that physical death is not the end of all that we are. Some speak of a subtle body made of impressions, memories, tendencies, and vital force. This subtle body continues after the physical form falls away. An old image compares death to changing clothes. Worn-out garments are left behind. New ones are taken up. From this perspective, the body is clothing, and something deeper is the traveler. Beyond even this traveler, some teachings speak of a self unchanging, conscious, not limited by birth or death. Realizing this self is described as a kind of freedom. Whether one accepts this literally or hears it as a metaphor, it invites a different view of both life and death. One person described being with a friend as he died, and said it felt like watching a butterfly struggle free of a cocoon. Illness, weakness, and then a subtle, quiet emergence. Seen through such an image, death and birth are not as far apart as they seem. You might now be thinking again about that small gap where decisions are made. The gap is not something exotic. It is the instant you notice, I am about to speak in anger, or I am about to reach for this distraction, or I am about to turn away. Even a single breath taken there can open a little space. What happens in that space is shaped by everything else we have spoken of. The more the heart is clarified, the more attention is trained, the more unselfishness has grown, the more often the choice in that gap will lean toward wisdom and kindness. that the gap itself is always simple. A moment of awareness before movement. Over time, these three quiet powers begin to weave together. Decision awakens the will. Concentration steadies the mind. Unselfishness opens the heart. Together, they do not promise a life without difficulty. They offer something different. A way of meeting whatever comes with a little more clarity, a little more steadiness, a little more spaciousness. Let the mind rest for a moment on whichever of these three speaks most to you now. Decision, attention, unselfishness. Notice how they already appear, in small ways, in your own life, and then allow the thought to soften and fade as the space around it grows a little more quiet.